So now we will be starting normalization. Normalization means we have a very large data, let us say, and we will decompose into smaller ones. Such thing is known as normalization. And why do we need normalization? I know you have a very bad, unsatisfactory, bad relation. So we will break up their attributes into smaller relationship. And when we do that, our database become much more efficient, consistent and accurate. Right. So that is why we are using normalization. Now there are different, why do we need normalization? We have to discuss it detail. So you have to understand that our very unsatisfactory bad relation table would be there, and we will break their attributes into smaller table so that we will be able to so this would help us to improve our database efficiency, consistency and accuracy. So this database normalization is the process of organizing the attributes of the database to reduce or eliminate data redundancy. That means having the same data at different places. So that is data redundancy. The data redundancy means you are having the same data at different places. So the database normalization is you are going to organize the attribute. That means you are going to organize the attributes in such a way that you're going to divide this relationship by dividing the attributes into smaller relation. When we do that, we can reduce our data redundancy. That is, we know data redundancies unnecessarily increase the size of our database as the same data is repeated many places. So what happen, inconsistent problems also arises during insert, delete and update operation. So because of data redundancy, what happened, we know our database become very size of the database would increase. That means repeated data is there in many places. So what happened is that because of this, lot of inconsistency issue would occur. That is, when you are inserting, updating and deleting, when you are doing insertion, deletion and updation, and a lot of problems would occur. Okay, so because in order to prevent this, in order to solve this issue, we are using normalization and data redundancy, and the related issue because of data redundancy, that is the inconsistency issue which is occurring because of insertion, deletion, updation operations and all. In order to manage this, we do normalization. Understood? So in relational model, there exists a standard method to quantify how efficient database is. These methods are called as normal forms, and these are algorithms to convert a given database into normal forms. There are different algorithms. That is, in our relational model, there is a standard methods. That is, there are different methods. Standard methods are there in order to do this normalization. Okay, so in order to do normalization, there are standard methods. These methods are known as normal forms. Okay, this helps us to quantify how efficient database is. So there are some methods that are known as normal forms, and there are different algorithm that is there to convert a given database into these different normal forms. There are different algorithms that we have to learn also. So we have to learn these different types of normal forms also. But before that, we have to understand this, why do we need this normalization and what is normalization, in the correct meaning of normalization, right? So so now, before normalization, if you see employee ID, employee name, its department, department location and employee skill. If you see HR, department location, HR London, this data is always repeated every time, right? Similarly, so employee ID is a primary key. So what happened is that before normalization, the data of this department can, like, if there are a lot of more employees are coming, they will be there in any of this department, so the department location would be same. So that data gets same repeated again and again. HR London, Finance Australia, IT Chicago, these data would get repeated again and again if our data is increasing. Okay, so what happened is that in order to, that is before normalization, is that there are a lot of redundancy and anomalies that is there in this table. That is data redundancy. We know the department location is being repeated for every employee in the same department, so the department location would get repeated again and again. So that is data redundancy. Because of this data redundancy, insertion anomaly, update anomaly and deletion anomaly would occur. Insertion anomaly means if you are adding a new department is created. When I am creating new department, let's say I said I am creating let us say a sales department. I don't know, I'm just creating a sales department. Now when I'm creating the sales department, but there is no employee that I have assigned to this sales department, right? I have just inserted a new department, that is sales. When I do though, I can write sales, the department location, these two things only I can say. But when I'm inserting, I am just inserting only the department, so the employee name and employee ID and all is not there. So the employee ID would become null, because there is no employee. It has to be assigned, it is not assigned yet. So we cannot store its location because we need an employee record to insert, because we know employee ID is a primary key. Without employee ID, we cannot add this department location and department here, because primary key cannot be null. So this is called as insertion anomaly. Updation anomaly means if the location of this HR, let's say HR's location has been changed, we must update it for all the rows. If one row is missed, the data becomes inconsistent, because HR is here. Here's this Lily case data also has to be updated. Their department location has to be also updated. This is update anomaly. So the data becomes inconsistent if we miss any word. Deletion anomaly is that if all employees in the IT department is leaved, we lose that department information also. That is, if all the employees in the IT, if I remove this record, what happened is that if one employee I am removing the 4 David from it. So what happened, the IT's data information, the IT department's location and that information of the IT is also removed. That is deletion anomaly. Okay, so that because of data redundancy, we have insertion anomaly, update anomaly and deletion anomaly. So the need of normalization is that when you do normalization, this redundancy issues and this insertion anomaly, deletion anomaly and updation anomaly can be resolved. Right, so that means we will create a separate table for department that contains a department location. That is what we do is that in normalization we will create employee table is there. Now we will also create a department table which contains this department name and department's location, and this employee table would have the department name. So when we see the department name, we can see that what would be the location can be seen using this other relation. This is how normalization is done. Understood? This is how you can do normalization. So these problems that you got here can be resolved using this normalization. Thank you.